What's going on? It's your boy Crook Brown, and this is the third episode of How to Write a Rap. So before we even get into the episode, we got to take care of some business. So if you want more content like this, subscribe, hit that bell notification, follow me on all social media platforms. It's at Crook Brown, except for Snapchat. I think it's Crook B Hustler, spelled the right way. Hustler. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not really on Snapchat like that. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at Crook Brown, and subscribe here on YouTube. The song that's in the background today is another song off my project inspired by true events. It's called Season 1. It's actually produced by my homeboy Matic Lee. And crazily enough, it was a beat he just had in the stash. A lot of the beats on the project were handcrafted for me, but this particular one he just had in the stash that allowed me to get my rapping ability display on. You know what I'm saying? So please go check it out. I will leave a link in the description, but you can go check out my project inspired by true events on all streaming platforms. I'll do a whole story breakdown of Season 1 one of these days. Probably the next short form content I do will be about Season 1. So today, this will be a very short conversation. I was in the studio yesterday with one of my homeboys I actually grew up with. Matter of fact, I shouted him out in this song called Chief with my homeboy Big Chico, another Trap Panther Party alumni. I shouted him out, nigga Chris. So we in the studio. He's in school at AIU. He's learning to engineer. He produces. And so we at the studio, and he had sent me a beat a couple weeks ago that me and his cousin is gonna do. And I hadn't come up with nothing for it yet. So he asked me. He was like, "Yo, you got something written for it?" And I'm like, "Nah." I hadn't even really listened to the beat outside of the first time I heard it. So we get in the studio, and I feel like I'm taking forever. I'm writing this verse. I got him restarting it. Rube restarted it maybe 10 times. And I'm writing this verse. And I do it in like 10 minutes. I thought it was like 30 minutes, honestly. Then he told me, like, nah, it's 10 minutes. And so we got to breaking down the verse. And he was like, man, how did you come up with that in 10 minutes? And how did it get so complex? And I was like, you know what? That's kind of how my brain works. Like, when I hear a beat, right? I grew up around musicians. My dad is a musician. My church horn section played on TLC Waterfall. My old manager, who's a bass player for Organized Noise, Jermaine Dupri, Lil Jon, he played on TLC Waterfalls. Usher, yeah, man, his list go on and on. Shout out to Marcus Jefferson, man. His list goes on and on. Helped teach me how to be a man, but also showed me a lot about music. So I kind of grew up around musicians. I grew up in the streets, but I also grew up around musicians. And so growing up around musicians allows me to have certain understanding of music, not necessarily music theory. I ain't one of them people, I ain't gonna flex. That's a whole different skill level that I don't have. I'm not gonna make it seem like I do. Instrumentalists, composers, people who really do this and understand music, that's a whole different level, and most of us don't compare. That's a different type of discipline you gotta learn. So I'm not trying to compare myself to that in no form or fashion. But growing up around music allows me to hear the different changes in music, and hear the different arrangements, and hear different nuances in a song. And so I was just breaking down in his beat, like how my flow changed, I think maybe 3 different times in the same song. And the reason why is, well, maybe 4. It went from one flow to another flow for like 2 bars, another flow for 2 bars, and then another flow for 8 bars. So it kind of went from one flow for 4 bars, another flow for 2 bars, another flow for 2 bars, and the ending flow for 8 bars, right? And he was wondering, like, how did you come up with that? And I was like, yo, it sounds complex, but that's just how my brain works. I hear the changes in music, and so I believe I am undiagnosed with ADHD. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll probably, exude or show every symptom of ADHD for real. My sister's a teacher, and she tell me every day, bro, you got it. You need to go to the doctor, get diagnosed. But that ADHD allows me to not get bored, because I get bored quickly. So in a song, when I hear the different changes in a beat, my mind clicks in saying, hey, you need to do a new flow. And I'm sorry that this is moving around. I lost my phone holder, it broke, so I ordered another one. But yeah, you need to do something different. Every time I hear a change in the beat, something about it makes me want to do something different. So as I'm breaking down this verse, it dawned on me, like, one of the lessons that can be learned as an MC is that you do not have to do the same thing all the way through a verse. You're talking about 16 bars, and sometimes, or 12 bars, but sometimes 16 bars can get boring to a listener, like for real, for real. It may be incredible flow, your voice may be great, but sometimes it just get boring, like when you don't switch it up. And so, I went from rapping fast to rapping kind of staccato to rapping kind of fast again, but in a different cadence, and then really to like real slow, methodical raps. And all through that, I got some cool, dope bars, and he was kind of amazed by it, but to me, it was like, oh, this is second nature. And I realized that I've put the 10,000 hours in. When I do these verses every day, I'm doing them that day. I do need to stack up on my verses, and I will get to that. But right now I've been doing them every day, so that the practice and the exercise of doing it every single day has made me more sharper, if that's how you, or sharper is the word. So now when I'm approached about doing a song, especially something that's a feature that's got context to it, it don't take me long to put together no verses. And it's still gonna be dope. And what I would like to say to all the artists out there is, man, work on your craft. Look at your flow and see what different things you can do in the song to add flair, to add some spice, some variety, add some seasoning to that verse. If somebody's asking you to be on a song, it's your opportunity to show up and show out. They don't want you to be regular on their song. They want you to show up and show out. That's the point of the feature, right? Or if you're doing your own music, you don't want mundane verses. Sometimes the first verse may sound one way, the second verse may sound a whole different way. I do that all the time. It's because I get bored. So I know the listener is getting bored. So I would encourage all the rappers out there, switch your flow up every now and then. Try it. You might not be good at it now, but if you try it and you stay consistent at it over time, you will master different kind of flows. And nothing is going to happen overnight. So as long as you stay consistent, that's the number one key, is staying consistent. And I had to learn that myself over time, is you get better as a rapper by rapping. And a lot of people wait till they hear the music or wait till they hear a beat. I know in that scenario I didn't come to the studio prepared, but most times I come to the studio prepared, and I'm always listening to new music. And sometimes this exercise of this exercise of doing a new verse every day has made me search for inspiration every single day. So even when I'm not inspired, I can come up with something that's still gonna be dope, and I'm not gonna be cheating nobody, right? So now, if I am inspired, it's gonna be even more incredible. But the way you hone that craft is if you constantly work at it. And I think a lot of times the problem is people celebrate, hey, I haven't been rapping that long, or I do everything off the top of my head. And everybody's not Jay-Z or Biggie or T.I. I've heard Twista writes in his head, and sometimes I even write in my head. It don't take that much, but sometimes that pen to paper, or sometimes that writing in your phone can inspire you in different ways. Sometimes I use different writing mediums, like in my head, the notebook, the phone, because I may be uninspired, and sometimes those different ways help me think of a song different. When I tend to think of it in my head, it seems to be more simplistic but more direct to the point, and kind of say quote unquote real shit. When I'm writing it down, it seems to be more complex. When I'm using my phone, I tend to switch up cadences a whole lot. So I will honestly say to artists, if you take anything from this episode, is that you should absolutely be practicing your flow every single day in some form or fashion. You don't have to post it. One good exercise is doing what I'm doing duets on TikTok or Twitter, or you can just write the instrumentals, bro. And that's kind of why I started. You know, used to be in high school writing the instrumentals and middle school writing the instrumentals. And after you stack up those rhymes, you will find beats for those rhymes. And to get better as an MC, you gotta practice. That's just the reality. You gotta practice. You gotta absolutely practice, man. And be inspired. Be inspired. And when you ain't inspired, be disciplined. And that's real. And so this concludes our episode of How to Write a Rap. I think the next episode I'm gonna break down some artists I think do a very good job of switching up styles. Yeah, that's definitely gonna be episode 4. But this is episode 3. I'm glad you guys tuned in. How to Write a Rap.